Obviously, a tough season. Way to end it. Always the finality of it is always kind of tough. Seeing these guys, come in and exit interviews and leave and stuff. But at the same time, it's time to kind of get ready and start moving forward. So that'll take some questions.
Right. It's seen the last two off seasons. It's if Aaron wants to come back, he'll be here. He's said multiple times this year that he doesn't think it'll be just his decision. Do you guys want him as your quarterback next year?
Yeah, like I said in the bye week, I think I want all these guys back. That's part of that. He's certainly going to take some time. I think that's fair. And as we work through this, I think as he takes his time, kind of makes his decision just on his playing career in general, then we'll get together and move forward that way.
Brian, he just had his least productive season of his career. He had 3 different injuries. He turns 40 next year. Why would you want him back? What do you see that would make you feel that way?
Well, certainly this year was, I think he was dealing with some moving pieces, some injuries and things like that. It wasn't a great year offensively for us as a whole. But, you guys saw as well. He still can play at a very high level. I really like the way he led us. So, again, I think as we move forward over the next month or so, we'll, start putting these things together and see how that transpires.
To clarify, you think it is his decision in terms of coming back if he wants to be back?
We made a really big commitment to him, last offseason, so I think as we did that, it wasn't certainly for just this year. So like I said, he's going to take his time and the communication will be, pretty constant as we move forward.
Hey, Brian, going into next season, who gives you a better chance to win, him or Jordan?
Well, you're talking about a 4-time MVP, right? So we are very excited about Jordan and where he's at. There's no doubt about that. But Jordan's never played a 16, 17-game season, gone through all that stuff. So it's no different than we moved from, Brett to Aaron, right? So that's a hard thing to say. But at the same time, where Aaron's at, the level he's at, he would. I think there's not many teams he wouldn't give the best chance to win.
I asked him this after the game on Sunday too. He's dropped these breadcrumbs of, in Chicago, well, there's got to be mutual desire, and he's done it a few more times. What would give him the impression that you guys don't want it back? Because I asked him flat out if anybody has indicated that to him, and he said no, it's just a feeling he has.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's given him. I think that's a question for him right now. It wouldn't be for me. I think this was a tough season. This was not what we expected. It was not that stretch in the middle was really hard. So I think all of our players, not just Aaron, there's different feelings as you go through that. So again, I don't want to speak for him, but that's certainly a question for him.
But you have not given him.
No, we've had great conversations. It was like we always do. Talk this week. It was really good conversations and. I really respect the process he goes through after the season. He's done this for a long time. What he goes through during the offseason to get prepared for a season is significant, and I understand the decision he has to make or whether he wants to go through that. So I've always tried to give him that time. We talked about the season, what went right, what went wrong, what we liked, what we didn't, but not a lot of future stuff.
Brian, going back to Jordan, can you envision a scenario where both of them are on the team, coexist, whatever term you want to use, and how?
Yeah, no, I think, again, we really like the development of where Jordan is. I think he's ready to play. I think that's his next step in his development. But those guys work well together in the room. I think if anything, this year would have happened to Aaron and Jordan would have had to play a significant amount of time. We felt really good about that. But it's like any quarterback in the National Football League, when they haven't done it, you go into that and there's some unknowns. They got to handle a lot of different things, see a lot of different things before they can get to a point where they can win games in this league. So, but yeah, no, I could foresee that.
Jordan would be going into his 4th year as a backup. Is there any concern, or has he indicated at all that he's just ready to play, whether it's here, somewhere else?
Well, I definitely think he's ready to play. I think he feels that way. I think he's chomping at the bit. But at the same time, we're going to do what's best for the Green Bay Packers and what gives us the best chance to win moving forward.
So is it pretty much a given that you either exercise the 5th-year option or do something else contractually to keep him with you for beyond this upcoming season?
Yeah, Pete, I wouldn't say that's a given. I think we're kind of working through that, what's best. Obviously, we don't even know the salary cap number for this coming year. Usually by now we kind of have a sense of what that's going to be. So once we get that and we start down the track of kind of looking how we're going to put this team together, for 23 and beyond, we'll make that decision, but we're not there yet.
From your perspective, what caused the drop in Aaron's production this season? What gives you the confidence maybe it isn't at the start of a decline and that he can get back to?
Well, certainly when, losing Tay, that was a big part of this. I think there were some moving pieces on the offensive line early as some of those guys, Elton and Dave got back from injury, Bobby Tanyan as well. So I think that's part of it. And then obviously he dealt with some significant injuries, and like he always does, man, he plays through things that most guys don't. And but at the same time, I think our offense as a whole just was inconsistent. Week in to week out. There were some flashes, there were some glimpses in games where I thought we were getting back to the productivity level that we've seen in the past, but we weren't able to string those things together.
Is there any concern about his big play or big game performances? I mean, he didn't play well against Detroit, kind of the same thing against San Fran last year.
Yeah, Bill, I think they're all big games for us, but certainly, the season enders are, so magnified. As a team, we've struggled to figure out a way to play really well in these final games, that have everything on the line, kind of winner or go home games. So we're continuing to look at that. It's very important to us. But, whatever you don't finish the Super Bowl off with a win, you're going to look back and look at why you didn't play better in those games.
During that stretch in October, how much consideration did you give to playing Jordan than a quarterback with a fractured thumb and missing practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as we're in it, we were going to play the guy that gave us the best chance to win those games. I talked here at the bye week. I think we might have been 4-8 at the time. It certainly wasn't looking good, but I did feel that if the guys could come together and just get something started, that we'd have a chance to get back in this. It wasn't in our control at that time. Really proud of not only the players but the coaching staff, the whole organization. You've seen teams quit before in those situations, and our guys never did. They kept coming to work. They didn't blink. And we had a couple games fall our way, and then just kind of you saw it going, and we were really excited to see if we could get into these playoffs and see what we could do, but it just didn't happen. But no, I think as long as we have an opportunity to keep winning games and keep moving forward and get in the playoffs, we're always going to make the decision to go out and win the game.
Brian, you have this option to really not do anything with Aaron until the start of the regular season. Mm-hmm. Is there a chance you would, even if he says he wants to come back, you would just hold off on that just because you don't know what could happen in the future?
No, I think, again, those are all hypotheticals, and I want to get through this period of time where, he has a chance to get away and kind of see what he wants to do. And Matt and I start to work through, we're meeting with everybody in the organization, trying to just go through this season and then start to, plan out 2023. So those are hypotheticals. I don't know if we're there yet.
Could you look him in the eye and say we're ready to move on from him?
If we were, sure, absolutely. I mean, you're going to be honest with him. That's, you know what I mean? I think he deserves that. If we get to that point, we're not at that point.
Ryan, you mentioned that you mentioned how committed Aaron is to getting ready for the season and what he puts his body through in the off season. Do you need more of that work to be here in Green Bay? Because the last 2 years, he's missed some of you.
Well, I think we want all our players here in the off season. I think I think Matt and his staff. I think it's just when guys are together. First of all, I think there's more energy in the building. Certainly when you're quarterback and your leaders in the building. So we want all our guys here. It's optional and voluntary, as you guys know, with the exception of the mandatory minicamp. So, but we would like, we invest a lot in these guys, and we would certainly like that investment back from all of our guys. But there's rules for a reason, and they're negotiated with in the CBA. So, I know a lot of the veteran players probably need less, of that. But sometimes our younger players need those guys here as well. So. As we get moving, into this next season, we'll kind of see how that goes.
You were pretty steadfast, I think it was 2 off seasons ago, that you weren't going to trade him when he didn't want to be here. If a team called and wanted to inquire about that, would you pick up?
I appreciate the question. Those are hypotheticals. Again, I think, he's got a lot of thinking to do about what he wants to do. And once he gets through that process, then we'll get together and start, planning this thing out.
Brian, if he comes back at the same contract, are you back shedding cap again this year? Are you redoing deals and everything to stay under?
There'll be a little bit of that probably, no matter what. I think, again, we don't know the cap number, what it's going to be right now. Again, usually we have a little bit of an idea, but they've been kind of slow to roll that out to us. So once we kind of have that number and kind of understand, how we're going to move forward, but regardless, no matter what happens, we're going to do some of that,
Along those lines, is David Bakhtiari your left tackle next season?
I would hope so. I think obviously I think we're hopeful that he's kind of cleared some of those injury hurdles, that he had the last few years. I thought he got into a really good groove before the appendectomy, which set him back. But then when he came back, he kind of he just stepped in and like he hadn't missed any time. So he's unique that way. I think he got into a really good rhythm of learning what he needed in practice to get to the games. And I'm hopeful that as we get, beyond this season, that rhythm will serve him well as we go forward.
What about Mason?
Again, these are all decisions we're going to work through this offseason. I mean, David's under contract, Mason's not, so we're working through all that stuff. Mason had an outstanding year this year, was really clutch in a lot of ways. I mean, so it's he's performing at a high level for a long time, and obviously having Rich coming in and stuff, and him adapting to a new special teams coach for I don't know how many years in a row now, but he carried us in a few of those games. There's no doubt about it.
Not sure, had a few days to reflect, but what went wrong this year? I mean, you went 13 wins in a row, 3 years in a row. I'm sure you thought this team was going to be damn good. The defense wasn't, the offense wasn't. What happened?
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, I think certainly we had some moving parts, but we just never played complementary football. You know what I mean? I think at times when our defense was playing well, we didn't adjust and do things in the second half, and our offense was taking some time to get going. So, I think we got better as the year went on, but I think there was just inconsistencies in our complementary football, and I think that hurt us along the way.
So is that coaching, Brian?
Injuries.
Is that coaching?
It's everything. I think it's everything. It's players, it's coaching, it's just everything. I think, and again, you'd love to have, if I had the answers, we wouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? So I think as we look back, and we look at every kind of, everything we did to prepare for the season and what we did in the season, we'll look at all that stuff and then try to prevent that from happening. But it's everything.
So injuries notwithstanding, Brian, did you kind of underestimate what you thought you'd get out of the receiver room post Adams?
I don't think I underestimated. We had some injuries there. We knew that was going to be a challenge. I thought our defense early was going to be at a level what might give us some time for those guys to catch up. Certainly Christian's injuries early just set him back, and it took him a while to get rolling. Once he got rolling, I think we were a different team. I think teams played us differently once he was going. But when you lose a Hall of Famer like Devontae, there's going to be some time before you can get back to that level.
So, Goody, Bill asked Rodgers after the game if he thought he still has it, and Aaron said yes. But then in his answer, he said, I feel like obviously losing Devontae was a big deal, but we didn't fill that void. There was hope in certain things that were going to fill that void, and ultimately that just didn't happen. What would you have liked to have done at wide receiver? Because it looks like you drafted 2 studs who are going to be pretty darn good players, but maybe not right away as rookies. So when you look back, what could you have done differently to fill that void? Or were there things you wanted to do and you weren't able to get them done?
Yeah, I think, there's obviously things you can do, right? We were losing a Hall of Fame player, and it's pretty difficult to replace a Hall of Fame player with another Hall of Fame type player, especially unless you're willing to give up the resources and the salary cap money to do so. So, we ended up going the draft route, and we're really excited about the guys we drafted, all 3 of them. But I think we didn't come together as an offense and as a team early enough to be productive like we needed to be. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, I think obviously there were some injuries, not only to the wide receiver score, but also the offensive line was going through some things early. But yeah, there's always going to be an adjustment period when you lose a player like that.
So when you look back, and I'm not talking about on March 17th when you made the trade, right? Because I understand where things were there, but he didn't hold out before the 2021 season. There was the discussion of the DeAndre Hopkins money and stuff. If you had a do-over, would you have handled that going all the way back there differently with him? Because you've called him a Hall of Fame player multiple times. You used the word losing him, but you did trade him. How do you kind of view if you could have done things differently much earlier?
No, I don't think. Yeah, no. I mean, the way we approached that before the 21 season was, I was surprised that wasn't a decision on his part. But I wouldn't do anything differently.
Back to my questioning from a minute ago about what went wrong. So what gives you confidence that you're going to have largely the same group of players? You're going to have maybe the entirely same coaching staff, that a group that couldn't find any answers for 6 months is going to find them in 2023?
I believe in our group. I really do. I think every year is new, and this is a hard league. But I believe in the players. Certainly, there's going to be change within our roster. There's no doubt about that. But I believe in kind of the organization, how we do things. I believe in the process. Sometimes things don't go your way, and you kind of look at it, and you got to be able to tweak things. But I believe in the people in this building, and I'm excited for 2023.
You mentioned the defense feeling like it would be strong enough to hold water early in the season. It finished in the bottom half in yards and points. It sounds like Joe Barry's going to be coming back as defensive coordinator. Did you miss some evaluations on players there? 7 first-round picks, a lot of free agents, not to be able to have the expectations that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always misses in evaluations at times, but this particular year, I don't know if I would say that. I think we had some young players that started coming on late really well that we were counting on, and that's kind of what we expected. I just don't think we came together and played consistent enough football with that group early on. There was if you guys remember back in the beginning of the season, especially some of the first halves, we were really, really good. But we just didn't carry that through the game, and we weren't good enough for where our offense was at the time to win the games we needed to win. So, but no, I think, you're always going to have hits and misses in the evaluation part of it, and you're going to look back on that and see, and there's always different reasons for that. But like I said, I think that's a very talented group, but we did not play like a very, talented football team at times.
Why is that? Why do they not on defense come together and play to the level that you?
It's a variety of things. I think, it's never one thing. Some guys didn't play as well as they had in the past, and that could be because of injuries. It could be because of a lot of things going on in their lives. But we're going to have to do better, and we're going to have to keep working at it if those guys are going to continue to be in their roles.
Hey, Brian, you're on the hook for a decent chunk of change for Savage. Where do you think you guys should play him? How should you use him next year?
Well, I think he's very versatile. I think when we brought him, when he kind of in the middle of the season, we sat him down for a little bit, and he came back. We played him a little bit more in the nickel, which I think allowed him to get closer to the ball and make some plays. Certainly saw more urgency out of him, and once he came back, which was good to see, kind of more like he was in his first few years. So he can really do anything. He has so much speed and range to cover in the back end. But when you put him back there, sometimes he gets further away from the ball, and he doesn't have his chance to make as many plays. So you guys know how I like versatility kind of throughout the secondary and the offensive line. He can do a lot of things. I think, there were some reality checks as he went through this season, and I'm hopeful as we go into next season that we're going to see the best.
Brian, the special teams obviously took a big step forward, and
Yeah.
Rich was a big part of that, but you had also talked about you guys doing some things differently with the roster.
Yes.
Does that shift from your point of view need to become, a permanent shift to keep that special teams where it needs to be?
Yeah, I really like what we did as a teams unit this year, and a lot of respect and for Rich and how he goes about things. I think the thing that I liked the most was the play style of those guys, and you guys probably saw it. Not only the effort and the intensity, but then the pride they took in it. I thought our cover teams were as good as they've been here in a long time. So yeah, I think the way we approached it was a little different from a roster building perspective, and I think that'll kind of continue.
Brian, what was your reaction watching Keyshawn, kind of go from a guy that was a flyer at the beginning of the year to where he was at the end of the year with the kickoffs and also, some even the slot corner work?
Yeah, really proud of the way he took, really responded to the opportunities given to him. I think not only in the team stuff, but on defense as well. When we kind of identified him in the middle of last season as a guy that, as a nickel corner type player that, we knew we were losing Shandon at the end of the year, and we were going to have to kind of fill that spot. We were really excited about him as that, and knew he was a good teams player, good gunner, good cover guy. Obviously, none of us knew what kind of returner was going to come out of that, and that was a pleasant surprise. And again, when the opportunity came, was just really proud of how he attacked it.
Brian, I think you have a franchise record number of legs on your payroll right now. How delicate you got to be in the deliberation about Mason, whether time to go to a younger kicker?
Say the first part of that question again.
You got a lot of kickers under contract.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think franchise record. How delicate you got to be in the deliberation whether to consider moving on to a younger leg?
Yeah.
Considering Mason's stature with this.
Yeah, I think we're all going to always want a competition whether we bring Mason back or not. So we're always going to have multiple kickers. I think that's the way Rich wants to do things. So not only kickers but punters and snappers. You'll probably see a lot of those guys come through as we go forward. for us, in the personnel department, it's nice to have guys in your own building and take a look at them that way. And we were doing that ever since the COVID year, when you kind of had that fear of Saturday morning or Sunday morning waking up and one of your kickers or punters got COVID. We started stacking the roster, the practice squad with those guys. And I think now that the practice squad will stay at 16, I think we'll probably do that regardless from here on out.
How do you evaluate the job that the coaching staff did, and how much input do you have in what that staff looks like next season?
Yeah, as far as the input, I'll take the second part of that question first. That's Matt, and he'll make all those decisions. I will support him in any way that I can. Obviously, we were talking every day about things, and I support him whatever way he chooses to go with things. And if we can help, in research and things like that, when he's putting his staff together, we certainly will help. But I think we got a very good coaching staff. And there were some trying times this year as we went through the season. But again, to be able to hang tough and get back and win those 4 games in a row to get back into contention to make the playoffs, I think those guys deserve a lot of credit for that.
Goody, going back to Wes's question about Keyshawn, there's so much focus on what you do with the draft or the big ticket free agents, but you look at him, you look at Rasul last year, Devondre. How important is it to hit on those type of guys, the kind of under the radar guys, and how vital are they to the kind of lifeblood of your team?
Yeah, it's vital. I mean, I think every part of roster building is important to us, and we spend a lot of time on it. And obviously, the draft gets a lot of attention. Free agency, those few days, gets a lot of attention. But for us, that's as important as anything. Finding those role players that can come in, be versatile, play teams, do different things for you at a high level. It's exceptionally important. And the way this league is that most of the time, those guys, if they come in and do a good job, you're going to have to replace those guys as well, right? Just because of the way the cap is and stuff. So we have to be able to do that every year. Our pro personnel staff does a fantastic job of kind of tracking those things. And it's never those things where hey, it just comes out of the blue one day. I mean, we might be tracking a guy for a year and a half, and liking him, and then all of a sudden the opportunity comes where the price and everything makes sense, or he gets released and we claim him, or we have an opportunity because of roster numbers to go steal a guy from the practice squad. I mean, Alan Lazar is a perfect example, right? We were out of it in 2018, so we kind of started taking who's the best practice squad guys out there. Let's go get him, and that's a big part of what we do and those guys do. They do a fantastic job, and they're constantly bringing me guys to look at and say, hey, here's an opportunity, and those guys are, the amount of hours and time those guys put in, and it's a little bit unheralded at times, but they do a great job.
So on the flip side of that, is there the challenge of when a guy is on, for lack of a better term, a prove-it deal, right? That then do you have to factor that in? I mean, you re-signed Devondre, you re-signed Rasul, but is there a little bit of a peril there that maybe when they're not in the situation that they have to prove themselves, that maybe they're not quite going to be as good?
Yeah, I think across the National Football League, when guys are in contract years, right, so to speak, you can sometimes count on getting their very best. It's not always the occasion. A lot of guys play that way no matter what, but I think it's no different than competition, right? It brings out the best in you.
Are you concerned about Quay? Obviously, he played really. Are you concerned about Quay? Obviously, he played well, but if the guy gets kicked out of one game, well, maybe it's a young mistake. But if you do it twice, then you got to think, boy, the guy's got a problem, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think he's got a problem. No, certainly he can't do that. That's unacceptable, and he knows that. We love Quay. We love everything he's bringing to our squad right now. For a rookie to come in and do what he did, not only on the field, but I think he's done some good things leadership-wise. He's got a really bright future ahead of him. I'm excited for him. Those are things he's going to have to clean up. He's got a lot of energy and passion on the field, and those reactionary things. He's got to learn and grow from that. I think he will. The thing that I was most proud about, even though that was a big mistake on his part, you guys saw he responded the way he should respond. And that's the man. That's who he is. And again, it can't happen. But I was proud of the way he responded to it.
What are you concerned about defense at times, on how they graded out on missed tackles? And, you want it to look more like the second time you played the Vikings. And the challenge of having to fill that linebacker spot after you lost Rashawn.
Yeah, I mean, losing Rashawn again, it's, we were talking about Tay earlier and losing a guy like that. When you take a guy out of your defense like that, it's, that's tough to replace. It's tough to adjust. I did think the defense did a nice job when he was out because he's such a dynamic player, you wondered how that was going to go. And I thought Joe and his staff did a nice job of adjusting once he left. The first part of your question, to me, and this, maybe I'm getting old, but tackling is almost an epidemic in our league right now, especially late in the year. But I think the best defenses are good tackling teams. You got to be able to tackle in this league. It's got to be consistent. And I thought at times actually we were pretty solid, and then we hit some spots where we weren't, and it certainly affects your wins and loss column for sure.
Hey Brian, do you think the 3 rookie receivers could anchor your room next year? Let's say everything's equal and you don't get your veterans back. Could those 3 guys do it? And what do you think each guy has to do in the offseason?
Yeah, I think they could, Tom. I think at the same time they're going to be second-year players, right? And so there's, I think if there was a veteran in that room that does things the right way and can help lead that room, that would be good. But I'm very excited about those guys and their ability, what they can do in the future, not only as players, but in leading that in that room. But Coach Vrabel does a great job in there. But whenever you have the guys like Randall Cobb or Alan Lazard, guys that have been there and done that, it's very helpful to those young players and allows them to play freer. So certainly that would be more ideal. As far as what they need to do, I think the NFL game's different. And I think all of them need to kind of continue to get better at learning how to get off press, and then just play where they're not thinking. I think, and that's not just them; it's all young players, But certainly in the National Football League, your releases are much more important than maybe you were in college. So, for rookies, they both dealt with some injuries along the way, but when they were out there consistently, they were very productive, and that's exciting moving forward.
What did you think of the year Aaron Jones had, and do you expect to have him back next season?
Yeah, certainly we expect to have him back. Obviously he's a dynamic player. It's amazing. I think this is year 7, maybe going into year 8, whatever it is. But he's, for a guy his size to kind of bring it every day, he rarely misses a practice, rarely misses a rep. The way he leads our football team, it's just his consistency is amazing. It's in this league you can't have just one, and obviously having AJ and it's nice to have kind of that 1-2 punch, but Aaron just kind of, when we first got him, you're kind of thinking, hey, this probably won't last long because of the way he's built and his size, and he just keeps defying the odds.
Running backs can lose it quickly. What do you look for from that position, indicators that might be happening?
I don't really think it's just that position, but I think it's like your legs. I think you're always looking at guys, and when they start to lose their legs, their flexibility in their lower body, I think that's when you start seeing things start to break down, But again, he's continues to be dynamic for us, and hopefully, that continues for a while.
Do you think it's likely Jones plays out his current contract as it is now, or is he a candidate for another restructure, especially with Dylan coming up on a contract year?
Yeah. Well, with the way we're doing things lately, we'll probably restructure everybody to keep, trying to keep making some room. But we're working through all those things. So there's all those dominoes, right? So like you're looking at everything, when the timing of those things. There's certain things you might do, then you don't have to do that. So we'll work through that over the next month or so.
Hey, Goody, when you got the gig, Mark changed the structure of how things are here, and then obviously you guys hired Matt, the structure. He talked about how there were silos and whatever else. I'm curious, with the structure the way it is, did you and Matt and Russ and Mark kind of learn through the hard times this year some things that maybe you guys have to do a little bit better, whether it's communication-wise or, because, adversity usually brings out maybe some of that kind of stuff. Did you guys get a feel for where you guys need to improve?
I think it's a good question, Jason. I think we learned a lot of that maybe prior as we were going through some other things, about communication and staying together on things. And so this year, we're pretty consistent, in how we meet and how we communicate those things. So I wouldn't say this year we would learned any major lessons, so to speak, because I think we've already been through that.
So was it somebody's summer of discontent that helped you learn that, or
A lot of
what did
things.
you learn?
A lot of things back then, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Hey, I just want to say too, I know it was a tough season, and sometimes you guys go through that. It's tough for you guys too. I appreciate everything. So I appreciate you guys, where you cover our team.